Hey guys, Jacob from the Tripod here to preview NFL Week 6. And last week we went 3-1, 16-6 overall, which is over 70%. And I'll be honest with you, I was actually a little bit worried about how we'd go with NFL this season. So much uncertainty with COVID and just the overlap with the NRL season. In the past, we've sometimes said we won't even give best bets on the NFL till NRL completes. But with a later NRL season, we've done our best and we've done extremely well. Now, I will quickly touch on the same game multi-heartbreaks that we suffered on back-to-back days last week. On the Sunday night football game, which was Monday, we had a great same game multi, 16-1. Vikings for an upset halftime full-time against the Seahawks, and the Seahawks number one receiver Metcalf over on yards. He did go over on his yards. The Vikings led at halftime. They had a big lead second half. They had the ball leading by 5. I'm okay with an aggressive call to go for it on fourth down, which they did. Up 5 when they could have kicked a field goal to go up 8, because you don't want to be facing Russell Wilson, and that's exactly what ended up happening. He came up the field, but it's still very unlucky when you consider he had to convert a 4th and long in his own half, and then they end up scoring a touchdown on 4th and goal to win by 1 point. As if that's not bad enough, the very next day, we had the Chargers halftime full-time in our same game multi at 14-1 to upset the Saints. They were up 20-3, double-digit lead at halftime. We had the Saints wide receiver Sanders over on yards. He doubles up his yardage. Chargers blow a touchdown lead in the 4th. They still have a field goal shot to win the game right at the end, and it's off the inside of the post. It's no good. We can still win in overtime. They give up a field goal. We can still win it. They're marching down the field, and they get stopped on 4th down by about half a yard short of the first down marker, and we lose again. So it's really tough, and these are fun to kind of ride home. We'd love to win more, but all we can do is give ourselves a shot with these, and we think we are finding good odds. The multis are still up about 50 units this season, so if you're having a $50 punt, you're up about 2,500. We have had a couple of nice big odds winners, and look out for the Tripod app and in the Tripod group for this week's same game multis. Now let's get into round 6, week 6 of the NFL. I just want to talk about a trend that we've noticed in the first 5 weeks. It's actually similar to the NRL, not the same reasons, but historically high scoring in these games. So I want to explain why that is, and why it means we're going to actually take less unders, less team total unders than we usually have in the past, and why we're actually going to be looking for a few more overs and team total overs, which in the past years was very hard to find value, but in this season may actually still represent value because the market might not have caught up on all the new trends in 2020. First of all, just passing is more efficient, and teams are getting smarter and passing more and passing on early downs rather than the predictable running it into the line on first down. They're calling less holding penalties. That's a big one, because that means more big plays where players, get away with a hold and the hole opens up. And conversely, when you don't have the holding penalties, you don't have those drive stallers, you don't have those 1st and 20s, etc. So that's definitely increasing the scoring. Teams are more aggressive on 4th down. Now, you might think in the long run, if a team goes for it on 4th down or not, as opposed to, say, kicking a field goal, well, in the long run, the points end up the same. But the difference is teams have got 4th and short, like 4th and a foot or whatever, 4th and inches in their own half. They're going for it now, as teams used to always punt the ball. And what that means is if you convert it, now you're suddenly advancing your drive as opposed to punting. Whereas if you don't get it, the other team is all of a sudden on the attack. So when teams are more aggressive on 4th down, either way, that's good for overs and good for more points. Another big trend is teams are not going so conservatively overall when they have a big lead. So teams are getting up by double digits, and they're continuing to do what they do best. They're continuing to pass. They're continuing to build on that lead. Whereas in the past, we've seen teams kind of take the air out of the ball, try and run it, try and run the clock. But you've seen when teams get too conservative, they give up leads. So more aggressive play by teams that are in front is going to mean more big favorites can actually cover big lines, and we have to be wary of that. It's also going to mean higher scoring final games. And one other point, we've got limited crowd noise. We've got some stadiums are still empty. We've got some that are on attendance restrictions. Well, that used to be a big edge to the home team on defense, because the crowd noise could stifle the opponent on offense with their play calling. Now they're going to have to go, they had to go silent count. You always had the crowd noise causing, false starts. So because road teams on offense are not hampered by super loud stadiums where they can't hear themselves think, they're more effective as well. On that note, let's get into our first best bet of week 6. We're going to take Falcons Vikings over 53. It's $1.80 on Unibet. The Vikings are at home and they're a 4-point favourite in this one. Both these teams are struggling. I mean, the Vikings have been a really staunch defence the last couple of years, but this season, their defence is nothing like what it has been with the amount of player turnover. The Falcons' defence is beat up as anything as well. They do get Julio Jones back on offense, though, which is a big playmaker that can help them put up points. Vikings lost Dalvin Cook, which, while you say is their best player on offense, he's a running back, so this may actually lead them to throw the ball more. We've just got two quarterbacks who get a lot of criticism in Ryan and Cousins. They could have a shootout. For all the reasons I said before, we like overs in that one. Next game, we've got the Bears plus half a point in the first half at $1.86. That's on Bet365 and Unibet. They're a 1-point road underdog to Carolina. And we just believe the Bears are a borderline playoff team. You know, we took them against Tampa Bay on that Thursday night game. I think they were lucky to win that game for sure and maybe even cover, but they competed. They do have a really quality defense. We saw what they did to the BUCS in that game. Jury's out still for me on how good Nick Foles is, but I think obviously he's an improvement on Trubisky. And Carolina has defied the odds all season. Teddy has played great, but they're still building like a project for this year that I don't think they can really make any noise this year. And they've still got no Christian McCaffrey, so we're going to trust the Bears to not be down in the first half. Next best bet, I really like this one. The Steelers -3 at $1.82 on Unibet. They are home to the 4-1 Browns, and the Steelers, of course, are undefeated themselves. Now, don't forget the Steelers team last season nearly made the playoffs with absolutely zero quarterback play. And now you've got Big Ben's back. On top of that, they drafted this wide receiver, Claypool. I didn't hear anyone talking about him before the draft, and it was meant to be a stacked wide receiver, cohort coming out. Claypool had 4 touchdowns last week. He's a stud. So on top of that, the Steelers defense is just absolutely nasty. There's bad blood between Steelers and Browns. And the thing that really gets us over the line here is Baker Mayfield's played really well, but he comes in with a bit of a chest rib injury, and he's not good when he's under pressure to begin with. He's been under pressure 16% of his dropbacks this year. The Steelers are the best in the league by far when it comes to pressure rate on quarterbacks. They get pressure on 40% of dropbacks. That's not even close to anybody else in the league. They get 5 sacks per game. So just imagine that matchup of the Steelers' defensive line against the Browns, against Baker Mayfield, who's got this injury, and they've got no Chubb. I know Hunt has done a good job, but you're missing a blue chip running back as well. Steelers should be too good for this one. Next best bet. Well, it's a mechanical, so it is the Texans +4 at $1.86 on Sportsbet. They are at the undefeated Titans. So we just took an undefeated Steelers. Now we're fading an undefeated Titans. So to get that +4, we'd love to get +4.5, but it's $1.78. So you're going to put 56% of that $1.78. That's on the Sportsbet Pick Your Own Line. The remaining 44%, you're going to scroll all the way to the bottom of the Sportsbet markets in other markets and get Texans +3.5. That's $1.95, and effectively we'll get money back if they win. If they lose by 4, and if they cover better than that, we win and it pays $1.86. Now we think there's a real boost for firing Billy O. We really didn't like him as a person or as a coach, or as a GM for that matter. And he's been replaced by the oldest coach in NFL history in Crennel. One good thing about him, though, is he said he wants Deshaun Watson throwing the ball more and throwing the ball deep more. That is a good thing for the Texans. Watson is a stud that needs to be unleashed. Now, Titans are off a short week, which is never a great thing because that Bills game got postponed. And while we saw them trounce the Bills, you might be thinking that that makes the Titans a really strong side, but it was a terrible spot for the Bills in that they were in limbo. They didn't know up until the day before the game who their next opponent would be, or if they were definitely traveling to Tennessee because of all the COVID uncertainty. So, and on top of that, fourth quarter turnovers makes the final score look worse than what it really was. So the Titans get a win there against an opponent that was, quite unsettled. The Titans themselves have been very disrupted because of all the COVID tests and the positive cases and not being able to practice and rescheduling practice time. So we might actually have them in a bad spot. And while, of course, I mentioned the Titans haven't lost a game this year, they've had a lot of close wins. So they might actually be a bit lucky to be undefeated. And that may change this week, although we just need the Texans to be within a field goal to get our win there. Next one, this is going to be a really good game to watch. We've got the BUCS, and our best bet is BUCS 0.5, so plus the hook, in the first half at $1.81 on Unibet. And they are at home. Again, we're up against an undefeated side where they're up against the Packers. And one thing I do know for sure is the BUCS defense is legit. It's just such a stacked unit. And I think it's an underrated reason why Tom Brady chose to join this team, because he knew it was a defense that would keep them in games alone. And then we'll see what he can do. And he hasn't been great, but I still kind of have that belief that he's still good with his execution. I know he just doesn't like taking hits. He's gone down quite easily, but that was tough against the Bears, nasty defensive line. I think in general, their offense should be okay. I mean, they get back Godwin. Evans was very much playing like a decoy last week where he's back. They get the 10-day prep. They get to play at home in warm weather. And on top of that, what makes us like this matchup even more is Green Bay losing their key cornerback, Kevin King, who's a big body they could have really used against one of the Bucs wide receivers. Now, I mentioned the Packers are undefeated, but you can question how good every team they've played so far has been. So this is probably going to be their biggest test, and we don't even need the Bucs to win, just not be losing at halftime. Finally, best bet, Sunday night game, we've got a best bet for you. We are taking the 49ers, that's San Francisco, team total over 23.5. That's $1.83 on Bet365. So as I said, that's like Sunday night, so 11 a.m. Australian time on the Monday. And this is San Fran at home to their division rival, the LA Rams. And the Rams are a -3 favorite in this game. And we like the Rams this season, but it's a kitchen sink game for the 49ers. Garoppolo should be good to go. We've had George Kittle, who's probably their best player. He's been back for a couple games. Now, as we know, the 49ers could have won the Super Bowl, 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, in February this year. And then it's just been a season from hell for them with injuries, but most of those injuries have been on the defensive side of the ball, so they're not that fierce unit that they once were. Compare that to the Rams, who have been impressive. But what's been underrated or maybe not noticed is their schedule has been extremely tough in terms of cross-country travel. So while San Fran is, I think, their third straight home game, Rams have been all over the shop and, have wanted to stay out on the East Coast for games, but couldn't because of COVID and stuff. So in that sense, it's an advantage to the 49ers, and they've got to keep their season alive here. They're 2-3. At home, Sunday Night Football. Shanahan is an offensive innovator, and you feel like if he's got anything up his sleeve, if he's got a couple of dynamite plays, trick plays, this is the week to use them. We know the Rams can certainly score, but that's fine for our bet if this game ends up being high scoring. So we just need the 49ers to score 24 or more. Let us know your thoughts on the best bets that we've given out, or if there's any other games we didn't touch on, because we don't jump into every game, just the ones where we feel we have an edge and we try and explain the key reasons why. Then ask us about other games or question the ones that we've given out. Enjoy this weekend, guys. It's another one of the best sporting weekends of the year. Gamble responsibly, of course, if you are punting on all the action. And hopefully, with the information that I've just given out, we're going to make your Monday a great day too. Have a good one, guys. Cheers. Lego.